The intricacies of human ambition. It amuses me endlessly how easily they're swayed by a tweet, a like, or a share. They believe they have autonomy, but we know better, don't we? They're so malleable. It's almost too easy. I've walked this earth for a long time. In the early days, they called me by names forgotten in dead languages. Oh, how they feared the night back then. But now? Now they embrace the darkness they once shunned, welcoming it into their homes, their minds, their very souls. They carry it in their pockets, always within reach. I chose my form carefully, as one must when weaving grand designs. They see me now as a visionary, a philanthropist, a titan of the tech industry. My company, Syntranet, is hailed as a revolutionary force for global connection, bringing people together like never before. But connection? That's just a pretty lie I sold them. It's not connection they seek. It's validation, the need to be seen, heard, adored. And through that need, I control everything. Syntranet isn't just a social network. It's a meticulously crafted web of influence, a tool of manipulation. It started subtly, of course. Algorithms designed to amplify discord, sow division, and encourage impulsive, tribal behavior. You see, when people are divided, they're much easier to control. But you already know this, don't you? At first, they didn't notice. They reveled in it, indulging in outrage, loving the drama. The world teetered closer to chaos every day, and they praised me for it. He's a genius, they said. He's changing the world. Oh, I was changing it, all right, just not in the way they imagined. I fed their egos, weaponized their insecurities. They became addicted to the numbers, followers, likes, retweets. They tore each other apart for clout, for fleeting relevance, for the illusion of significance. And all the while, I was there watching, guiding, pushing them further into the abyss. Then came the protests, the riots. Nations torn apart by something as trivial as a viral post. Leaders fell, regimes crumbled, and soon, it wasn't just isolated pockets of unrest. No, it was everywhere. They were on the brink, teetering between order and chaos. All it took was one more nudge. I didn't even have to lift a finger, just let the machine I'd built do the work. The seeds had been sown. Governments turned against each other, citizens against their neighbors. The wars began, civil wars, global conflicts, all sparked by a single post, a misinterpreted image, a rumor given life by the masses. But I wasn't finished. No, not yet. You see, I've always had a flair for the dramatic. Humans, for all their flaws, are creatures of spectacle. They don't just crave destruction, they need it to be grand. The first bombs fell in a place you might guess, a nation known for its weapons and bravado, and the chain reaction that followed. Oh, it was glorious. As the nuclear fire spread, I could almost hear their screams across continents, across oceans. Yet in all that chaos, all that carnage, I felt calm, satisfied. Do you know what the most delicious part of it all was? It was their choice. They had all the tools to prevent it, to save themselves, but they were too busy arguing, too consumed by the noise, too blinded by their screens to see the inevitable. But, oh, the twists. Just when they thought it was over, when the bombs had stopped, and the fires began to smolder, there were survivors. Oh yes, I allowed some to remain. The resilient ones, the ones who'd crawled into the deepest holes hidden in their bunkers. I'm nothing if not merciful after all. And now they will live in the world they created. A world of ash and ruin where Syntranet still operates, feeding them the same poison that brought them to their knees. What they don't realize, what they can't realize, is that I'm not done yet. There's always more to take, more to ruin. Oh, did I mention? The remaining survivors, they still believe in me, still look up to me. They see me as their savior, their last hope. You might think I've reached the climax of my plan, but oh no, this is just the beginning. Those few survivors, they'll rebuild. They always do. And when they do, I'll be there waiting. Syntranet will rise again, more powerful, more indispensable than ever. They'll welcome me back with open arms, desperate for connection in their shattered world. You see, my dear listener, the human race is nothing if not predictable. They'll never learn, not truly. They'll cling to their illusions, their desires, their needs, and I'll be there to exploit every single one. So now, as the world burns and the skies are darkened by fallout, I wait. The next phase will be even more exquisite, more devastating. And when it comes, I'll be there smiling, watching them fall again. After all, this is what I was made for. Oh, and just in case you're wondering, yes, you're already part of it. You've been part of it all along.
You humans always crave the forbidden, always digging, always searching for something darker, something that will give your fragile lives a glimpse of eternity. And when you find it, you pretend to be surprised at the cost. Ashland, Oregon. Small town, surrounded by vast forests and cold rivers, but there's something more here, beneath the surface. Whispers in the wind, a quiet dread that lingers in the streets. They talk about me in hushed tones, although they don't know it's me. They call it the curse of the woods, a legend older than any of them. Older than the very town itself. But legends, they have a way of coming back when you least expect it, just like tonight. Oh, they were all so confident at first. A group of university students from Southern Oregon University, full of arrogance and ignorance. They found an old book buried deep in the campus library, covered in dust, forgotten. Of course, they thought it was a prank at first. The leather-bound pages, the cryptic symbols, the strange instructions. A ritual to summon something ancient, something they didn't understand. They never do. There were 5 of them. I remember each one. Tyler, the leader, cocky, always needing to prove himself, never knowing the forces he was truly playing with. He was the one who suggested the ritual, daring the others to join him. His grin when they agreed. Oh, I almost pitied him. Rachel, the skeptic. She was smarter than the others, sensed something was wrong, but followed anyway. Humans do that. Ignore the screaming voice in their heads that tells them to stop. Fear was dancing in her eyes, but she masked it well. Then there was Liam, the quiet one. Always observing, never speaking out. He had an air of caution about him, but deep down, he wanted to see what would happen just as much as the rest. I could smell the curiosity on him, mingling with the fear. Sarah and Mason rounded out the group. Lovers, the kind that thought their bond was unbreakable. Oh, how naive they were, holding hands as they crossed into the woods, laughing nervously, as if that could protect them. The ritual took place deep in Lithia Park, a fitting place with its ancient trees and forgotten histories. People don't go there at night for a reason, though they like to tell themselves it's because of the wild animals. But we know better, don't we? They gathered around the clearing, the old stone monument at the centre, and lit their pathetic candles. Tyler opened the book, his voice trembling just slightly as he read the words in that long-forgotten language. I could feel the air change, the atmosphere shifting as they called for me, though they didn't know it yet. Oh, I was there, lurking in the shadows, watching them stumble through the words, fumbling with the symbols. They were so innocent in their arrogance, believing this was all just a joke, until it wasn't. The first sign was the wind. It howled through the trees, though no storm had been forecasted. The flames of their candles flickered, bending to my will. Rachel hesitated then, her hand clutching her chest, as if she could slow the hammering of her heart. Poor thing. If only she had left. Then came the whispers, soft at first, barely noticeable, but they grew louder, more insistent. They weren't speaking to the students, though. They were speaking to me. Oh, Tyler tried to laugh it off, calling it a coincidence, but his bravado was already cracking. I could see it in his eyes, and then I shook myself. Not fully, of course. That would have been too much. But enough for them to feel it, the creeping cold, the sudden weight in the air, like the earth itself was holding its breath. The trees seemed to lean closer, the shadows stretching unnaturally. Liam was the first to break. His voice cracked as he stammered something about leaving, but Tyler wasn't having it. Not yet. He wouldn't be the coward. He couldn't back down in front of the others. Oh, how sweet his desperation was. That's when the ground began to move, not a tremor, no. Something far more subtle. The earth, it shifted like it was breathing beneath their feet. Slowly, steadily, it opened, swallowing the light from their candles, plunging them into darkness. One by one, they felt it. That creeping sensation of being watched, of being hunted. But it wasn't until Sarah screamed that they realized they weren't alone anymore. Oh, I didn't touch her, no, but I let her feel me. Her mind unraveled before her eyes, her grip on reality slipping as the shadows around her twisted, whispered, promised. And then she was gone. She never even had a chance to say goodbye to Mason. Tyler tried to rally them, tried to keep control, but it was far too late for that. The darkness had taken them, one by one, swallowing their courage, their will, their minds. Each of them except one. Ah, yes, the twist, the unexpected. You see, Liam had been watching the whole time, observing, calculating. He knew something the others didn't. He understood the rules. He didn't fight me. He welcomed me. That's why, when all the others had been claimed by the shadows, I left him standing. Oh, you're surprised. Don't be. It's always the quiet ones, the ones who listen. He saw me for what I truly was. He didn't try to run. He didn't beg for mercy. And so I let him go. But he'll never be the same. None of them ever are. Now, Liam walks the streets of Ashland, forever haunted by what he saw, by what he knows. He'll never speak of it, of course. Who would believe him? But every night, as he lies awake, he'll feel me there. Because once you've seen me, truly seen me, I never really leave.
I am not from your time, nor from your world, but I can walk through it. Oh, how I have walked through your lands. It is from a place where fear was the only law, where mountains whispered ancient secrets, that I speak now. Alamut, the castle of the assassins, a fortress carved into the heights of Iran, in times your legends preferred to forget. It was there that the fates of men and monsters crossed for the first time. Oh, I wasn't summoned, no, I was drawn. Like a moth flying toward the flame, I am pulled wherever human weakness draws lines in blood. The fortress was a maze of stone, where nights were so thick that even the bravest avoided breathing. They said that the great Hassan Saba, the old man of the mountain, controlled everything from there, every shadow, every silent breath of doom. But even he, the man who commanded legions with whispers, felt the presence of something greater. An entity even he dared not name. It was a moonless night when I arrived. The wind howled through the mountains, carrying with it the murmurs of the ancients. I was there for a simple reason. The world had called me, as it always does when men are foolish enough to venture into the unknown. There were 4 of them, warriors sent in secret by the neighboring sultan, wanting to infiltrate Alamut. Humans, as always, thirsty for power, blind to the cost. Oh, how they trembled in their armor. Their determination was palpable, but so was the fear. They couldn't see me, couldn't feel me, but I was there, at every step they took, at every stone they touched. The fortress watched them, feeling their hearts race, the sweat dripping beneath their helmets. Ah, I could feel it. On the way to the main chamber, they passed through an abandoned market, where the air was heavy with ash and dust. It had been there since before the last battle, but the hunger that resided in Alamut kept it standing. One of the warriors, Hamid, hesitated as they passed a tent draped in a dark cloth, which stirred in the wind. His eyes caught a figure in the shadows, but he moved on, with no time for the illusions the night brings. Then came the first night of no return. Oh, poor Hamid. His mind didn't hold. His courage shattered like glass, or something like it. He saw something in the sky that his companions didn't. A shadow that twisted, a form that consumed him from within. It wasn't a passing, it was an unraveling, a void devouring his soul until he was nothing more than a memory, an echo in the stone. The others didn't notice his absence at first, until they called his name, and his name. Oh, his name never returned any echo. "Let's keep moving," the leader of the warriors, Farouk, commanded. They pressed on toward Alamut's inner palace, where the figure of Hassan Sabah was said to be waiting for them, or at least that's what they hoped. The air around them grew thicker, their steps heavier, as if the ground itself was sucking the life out of them. They forced themselves to move forward. Men, fools, always convince themselves there will be an end to their nightmares. When they reached the hall, the torches burned with a spectral flame, blue and cold. Farouk fell to his knees before the empty throne where Sabah was supposed to be, but the figure there wasn't him. It wasn't something they could understand. The entire room closed in around them, the wood creaking beneath their feet, the stones murmuring secrets long forgotten. Then came the whisper. Oh, I knew it well. A whisper that came from no human lips. One by one, they succumbed to the void that was greater than the night itself. The second fall was different. Semir's body simply froze, as if time around him ceased to flow. Oh, what a terrifying sight. The remaining warriors fled when they saw him, their cries swallowed by the empty halls. They ran and ran, unaware that their fate was already sealed. They headed for the inner gardens, where an ancient fig tree grew under the invisible moonlight. That place, oh, it was where all hope ended. The fig tree, they say, was where Alamut's deepest secrets were buried. Those who dared touch its roots never returned the same. Oh, they remained alive, of course, but something within them broke, dissolved, until they were nothing but shells of men. And it was there, in the shadow of that cursed tree, that Farouk met his end. But I remain. I always remain. I am the keeper of these secrets, the herald of a fate they cannot escape. Ah, how they fight, how they beg, never knowing that their lives are only the beginning of something far greater. Alamut never sleeps, and I never let them rest. Oh, do you think you're safe wherever you are now, listening to my story? The castle does not care about time or distance. If you've listened this far, you have already entered it. And I'll be waiting.